Hey BookTube, it's Peg. I am back at the History Shelf. For this edition, I'm calling it the Historical Fiction Edition. I wanted to talk all things historical fiction, including a pretty decent haul I did last year. Isn't that funny? Just last year. 2020, I picked up some reads. I stocked up for the current apocalypse, I guess. So I will have a lot of historical fiction that I can explore on my bookshelves in 2021. And Happy New Year again to all of you um, out there. And I hope you had a safe holiday. And as I said all that in my last video on my 2021 TBR, first quarter TBR. But this is all dedicated to fiction that I've recently finished reading and also the new stuff that I picked up. So let's see. You might have seen a few of these before in December when I might have shown you or talked about it in November or December. But let's start with a book that I think I really enjoyed, and it's not out yet, but I wrote a review of it and for a historical novels review. But it's coming out in March, and I want you guys who love historical fiction, especially with books that focus on primarily women and women in history that might have been overlooked. I think you will really enjoy this book. It's bound to be a bestseller, I think. It's Band of Sisters, a novel. The Women of Smith College Go to War. You see that down there, by Lauren Willig. And I guess Lauren Willig, she's written some New York Times and USA Today best-selling books, like 20 books or so on historical fiction, including The Summer Country. I have not read that book. But anyway, this book is based on a true story of women at Smith College. They were called the Smith College Relief Unit. That during World War I, they had some donors, and they decided to travel to France, not far from the battle lines, actually, near where the Somme was fought, to help the devastated villages and the villagers who lived there to get back on their feet, to provide basic services, you know, shelter, food, milk for babies, just trying to get people to, you know, rebuild their lives after, you know, their homes and everything else just destroyed. And this was a really, really fun book to read because she based the events that happened to the Band of Sisters were real, but then obviously she kind of fictionalizes the relationships or the friendships in the book, but it is written with a lot of wit, and you can see where this could actually be turned into a movie if people can ever make movies again someday. I could see like an all-star cast, and some of the things that the women go through. You know, they built their own trucks by hand. There were these rickety old little, you know, trucks that they got around through the villages to deliver food, and there's just a lot of funny things that happen in this book, and a lot of sad things, but mostly it's fairly inspiring, and I had a lot of fun reading it. It's a pretty big book. Oh, it's about close to 500 pages, but you learn a lot about a little piece of history that no one has really talked about and or knew about. And Band of Sisters, a novel, is, you know, normally I don't really tend to read these types of books because I'm just like, are they making these things up because they want to seem like inclusive? You know what I mean? Like, oh, women were, you know, battling on the front lines or whatever. It's like, no, they weren't. But in this case, they were not in the battle lines, but they were very not too far behind it, and they endured shelling, and these were really heroic women that were there to help people, you know, devastated by the effects of war and the German war machine. So this is something I heartily can cheer on, you know, because you know me, I love my historical accuracy. And this was based on research and letters and journal entries from the women who were there. So Lauren Willig really did her homework on this, and the book itself centers around like the friendship between two ladies, Kate Moran and Emmeline, or she's known as Emmy Van Alden, who comes from a rich American family. Like she comes from like the posh side of the tracks. She's really well off, and Kate Moran is an Irish Catholic.
Yeah, maybe you pronounce that differently.
How would you pronounce?
Moran is fine.
Okay. Well, it says Moran in the book.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kate Moran is she's Irish Catholic, and she was able to go to college with some of these women at Smith, but she always felt like people looked down their noses at her because she wasn't in the right class. So you have the class tensions, and so but really what drives it is the friendship between Emmy and Kate, and also just the class distinctions and how it brought some women closer, but it took others apart. But either way, this was a really, really good read. So keep your eyes out for Band of Sisters in March. I expect good things from that book.
Can I say something?
Yes.
It would suck if you were looking for Band of Brothers and you clicked on Band of Sisters, or you were looking for Band of Sisters, clicked on Band of Brothers, and a little bit of sticker shock.
What do you mean?
Just
like someone.
The title was kind of derivative.
Martine thought the title was derivative. So, yeah, Band of Sisters, Band of Brothers, but in a way.
On to like the Band of Brothers.
Maybe she was going for that. Maybe she was.
Band of Nieces.
I think that's
second cousins by marriage.
Listen, Band of Sorority Sisters. Look,
Yeah, Band of Vague Acquaintances.
No, it was.
Met,
yes.
Once argued with.
We're very irreverent here at the History Shelf Homestead, as you can see. Nothing is sacred. Although there should be some sacred things, but no. Okay. Anyway, another book, another big epic one coming in April. This is not even this. I've got the advanced copy, and I'm loving it, or I just did love it. It's recently finished. The Widow Queen, Fortune Favors the Bold, a novel by Elzbieta Sherazinska. Now, this is a working translation. This was translated by Maya Zakruska Pym. Now, this is my last name. It's probably very close to being as Polish as you can get, even though I'm technically German. But really, I would like to get a DNA test because I still think that my family, the German that my name encompasses, I think it also is very near to where Poland was. So either way, I'm down with Polish history. They were incredible warriors. But this kind of follows. There's a lot of Viking action in this. It's set in it covers the Piast. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The Piast House of Poland. Part 1 is like 984 to 985, and it covers like Duke Mieszko of Poland, and everyone was fighting everyone. So there's a lot of names in here. We've got Viking infighting. We've got King Harald Bluetooth of Denmark and his son Sven, who wants to take him out. You've got King Eric of Norway. Then you've got Duke Mieszko in Poland with his son Boleslaw, and then his daughter, which is, I think that this kind of revolves around Świętoszława, I believe is how I'm pronouncing it, Świętoszława. So it's based in history, but it's all, fictionalized, and there's like love and intrigue and betrayal, and the factions going against one another. It's very Game of Thrones-y, but in a real historical way. And I love the fact that it covers a lot of Polish history. back in the, what do you call this? I guess the dark ages, but kind of the Middle Ages, as the Vikings were kind of like moving their way through. It has even it brings in the Russian side. So we've got like Poland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Czechoslovakia. They even talk about the count there, and there's so many different factions. But if you can look past that part, it's very a pro. The women play a big role. They're not just bedmates and things like this. They are working with the men behind the scenes. Like the women that hold a lot of power politically, and so. This is a great read, and it's coming out in April, and it's going to be the first in a trilogy. So I am down with it. So The Widow Queen. This is going to be put out by Forge. But highly recommend that as well. That's another big chunkster of a book. We're talking close to 500 pages again. But okay, so the next two were more like historical fiction mysteries. One is like the 9th in a series, and one is the first in a series. So I think I've shown this book to you guys before, and some of you showed some interest in it. For fans of the Josephine Tey mysteries, this is Nicola Upson. She writes a series where Josephine Tey is an actual character. She is the protagonist in her series of books and deals with being recognized as a mystery writer as she's living out in these books, real life murders and solving crimes, along with her good friend Archie Penrose, who is a detective. This one is set in December 1938, and it's set on the Mount of St. Michael, or St. Michael's Mount, which I looked up on Google, and apparently it's just a beautiful place. But it's like almost like a closed room mystery, because at a certain it's a little that's kind of a drawing of what it kind of looks like, and then right here is where the tide comes in and it covers up the causeway. So at a certain time you can only get there by boat, and then a blizzard descends. There's a murder or two, and they have to figure out, well, who amongst them is the killer. So, but I really enjoyed it. I learned a little bit about Josephine Tey, which I did not know. The Secrets of Winter. So this is, I think, the 9th in this series, and I think I mentioned in another video where I talked about this book that I want to go back and read this series from the beginning. It's a great cozy read. I found it, I zipped along. It's a small little thing, but it talks a lot about, like, the people were hearing the war clouds, the war, where are my metaphors, hon? I can't find. The war drums were starting to rumble, with the Nazis, and so December of 1938, people were worried about another war. So that's kind of where the historical part comes into this mystery.
And that's set in Britain?
Yes, and I guess St. Michael's Mount is a little island off of Cornwall.
Yeah, Cornwall's gorgeous.
Yes, indeed.
So it's kind of like your little murder village that you want to time machine to.
Oh, yeah.
and buy a bookshop there.
Oh.
But mostly solve murders
Siri.
on the sly.
Yes, I kind of wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've often told Martine that I would love to move to and live in a small little village that we see in these cozy
Raisin.
murders.
You want to live in like Miss Marple / Agatha Raisin.
Yeah, I want to live in the village of where Agatha Raisin.
Cotswolds, which
the
isn't
Cotswolds.
expensive at all. You could easily find a place there.
Really? No, she says the Cotswolds are very expensive. So yeah, I'd like to live in a murder village where apparently there's one every, twice a year. Whenever a new book comes out, there's a murder to solve. But one of those places where the cute little brick little cottage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Friendly dogs walk by.
Friendly dogs and stuff.
Money is no problem.
Yeah. So,
and the murders are sweetly quaint.
They're sweetly quaint. They are not gruesome.
No.
In any way. That's how I like my That's how I like my murder.
That's how
Okay,
you like
just clean, just
Yeah.
very clean.
Yeah.
All right, so this book is the first, and hopefully he will continue. It's supposed to be the first in the series, and it's set in the pre-Civil War New York, which I find just really, really fascinating as far as like the interplay of the different factions. You think of Gangs of New York is where you get this feeling when you're reading this book, but this is Absence of Mercy by S.M. Goodwin, a Leitner and Law mystery. So I think it was the 5 Points where it was very poor in New York and there was lots of gangs. Just tons of different, houses of ill repute. But it introduces 2 new characters, and one of them is really quite different. I'll just read the back real quick. Jasper Leitner is a decorated Crimean War hero and the most admired inspector in London's Metropolitan Police. Along with a chest full of medals, he's got a head injury that's left large chunks of his memory missing. And he also has a stutter. So I've never seen...
Sorry. She can't just have
She finds that...
don't have like a litany of like complaints. He also has this, and he has trouble, he has trouble separating his colors when he's washing, so everything's pink. And,
All
and
right.
he forgets when to do a cold wash versus a hot
And
wash.
he has a speech.
But more importantly, everything's pink and too small for him at this point.
Yes.
And that's his pressing concern.
And that's what makes him different.
Yes.
So he has chunks of his memory missing, okay, but and he speaks with a stutter, which he is trying to work through from the damage of the head injury. But you'll see that as you're reading. It didn't distract me. I have to say the dialogue, it spells out where he's stuttering, But I found that, kind of interesting. Anyway, it says here, but Jasper's biggest problem is his father, the Duke of Kersey, who, enraged by a series of front-page newspaper stories extolling Jasper's exploits, decides he's had enough of the embarrassment and uses his political connections to keep his son out of the headlines and off the police force. Jasper is sent packing to New York City on a year-long assignment to train detectives and discovers a police department hovering on the brink of armed conflict. Assigned to investigate the murder of philanthropist and reformer Stephen Finch, Jasper joins forces with a man who might be even more of an outsider than he is. Hieronymus Law, a detective who had investigated 2 almost identical killings and who is rumored to have taken money to help frame an innocent woman for murder. Law is bent on restoring his good name, but can Jasper trust High? That's what he called it's H-Y, High, instead of calling him Hieronymus the entire time. But can Jasper trust High enough to bring him into the investigation? As the city devolves into madness and law enforcement falls into the hands of dangerous gangs, this unlikely team has no choice but to work together to pursue an adversary more sinister than either has faced alone. So anyway, I really enjoyed it.
But does he ever conquer his laundry concerns?
He doesn't, but I forgot to mention he has another... He's got another issue along with the stutter. No.
Parallel parking.
No, he's got a little bit of an opium addiction.
Oh, that.
So there is that.
That old chestnut.
Because he that old chestnut, yeah, I guess because after the war he had a lot of pain, and so he kind of fell into some bad ways. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Lord Jasper Leitner.
The names.
Isn't that great?
No.
She's making fun of it. So, okay, so now we're going to move on to the Hall part. Those were some of the books I've read in the last couple of months that were historical fiction mystery. Where to begin? You know what? We're going to start here before I go into... I'm not sure why I did this, but I'm hoping everything is kosher with this writer, because I went and splurged on like 8 books because they were all bargain priced. So I hope he's a good writer. I'll get to that guy in a second. In a video maybe a couple months ago, if you guys remember, I don't know if you do, I read a great biography on Toussaint Louverture, the Haitian revolutionary, and was just so intrigued by him. I wanted to learn more, and I discovered some historical fiction written about this time, and it was on bookoutlet.com, and it was so super cheap. And this is a trilogy. I think is it a trilogy or are there 4 books? I think there's just 3. Okay, but this is the first book in the series I was able to get on Book Outlet. So I picked it up for a song. And this is All Souls Rising, a novel of Haiti. And this is by Madison Smart Bell. Now, many of you will recognize Madison Smart Bell's name. He is recently just wrote a massive biography on the author Robert Stone, Child of Light. So I thought that was intriguing. The fact that, he wrote, to me, 2 really disparate, on 2 disparate topics, one on Robert Stone and then a whole trilogy of historical fiction on Haiti and Toussaint Louverture. But I'll just read this quickly. This is in this first installment of his epic Haitian trilogy. Madison Smart Bell brings to life a decisive moment in the history of race, class, and colonialism. The slave uprising in Haiti was a momentous contribution to the tide of revolution that swept over the Western world at the end of the 1700s. A brutal rebellion that strove to overturn a vicious system of slavery, the uprising successfully transformed Haiti from a European colony to the world's first black republic. From the center of this horrific maelstrom, the heroic figure of Toussaint Louverture, a loyal, literate slave and both a devout Catholic and voodoo-sant, that's a new word, voodoo-sant, emerges as the man who will take the merciless fires of violence and vengeance and forge a revolutionary war fueled by liberty and equality. So this is the first in the trilogy. I was able to score the second book. The third was not on Book Outlet, but I think I might just order that on Amazon once I get through these 2. So we got All Souls Rising, a novel of Haiti. It's put out by Vintage. And then I was able to pick up the second book, Master of the Crossroads, a novel of Haiti, by Madison Smart Bell. And the last one in the series is called The Stone the Builder Refused. So this one continues into the, I think this takes us into when the, not when Napoleon invades, but, oh yeah, it is. Anyway, so Master of the Crossroads, and this is even bigger than the second one. So got 2 books on historical fiction on Toussaint Louverture, Madison Smart Bell, and I got these for very cheap. And then just because I'm very interested in, what is this? This is about the, this is very slim volume. I didn't know it was going to be this small, but I got it for like $3.95 or $4. But this is historical fiction by Naguib Mahfouz. This is called The Day the Leader Was Killed. You see how thin that is. In this breathtakingly compact novel, Nobel laureate Naguib Mahfouz delves into the great generational themes featured in his epic Cairo trilogy. The time is 1981. Anwar al-Sadat is president and Infatah. Sadat's open-door economic policy is wreaking havoc in the everyday lives of citizens. Set against this backdrop, The Day the Leader Was Killed relates the tale of a middle-class Cairene family. Rich with irony and infused with political undertones, the story is narrated alternately by the pious and mischievous family patriarch, Mutashimi Zayed, his hapless grandson Elwan, and Elwan's headstrong and beautiful fiancée, Rhonda. The novel reaches its climax with the assassination of Sadat on October 6, 1981, an event around which the fictional plot is skillfully woven. This is the story of all people who must face the pangs of development while struggling to hold on to tradition. I picked this up because at the time I had just finished reading I wrote a review for Saber and Scroll Journal on when Reagan sent in the Marines. And the author, who's a journalist, kind of relates his time when Sadat was assassinated, and I just kind of got really intrigued by the whole time again. So I guess when I was doing the shopping, the book shopping, I was looking for historical fiction that might touch on some of the things I've read from a real historical standpoint. So yeah, that's the one I picked up. Let's see. You know, these don't really fit. One of these is I'm gonna end with a big bang on the big 8 books, okay? But let me just show you these real quick. This is nonfiction, however, it's historical. I've been wanting this for a while, and this is Ghosts of the Tsunami: Death and Life in Japan's Disaster Zone by Richard Lloyd Perry. They recently had a show on about...
I was just going to ask if it was the same one.
It is, yeah. They had a... Was it on Netflix? I think it was. I think it was on the Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah, there was an episode on the new Unsolved Mysteries series on Netflix. It was really good, and I think they based this episode off of this book. And I had known about this book before I saw that episode, because when I was watching that episode, I'm like, I think they must have hit this book up, because this whole book is supposed to talk about the reports of what happened after the tsunami and people citing or claiming to have seen ghosts, I guess you'd say, or spirits, or I don't know. I'm not trying to make a statement about whether ghosts exist or not, but I just found I'm also just really being intrigued by what happened at the reactor at Fukushima, and I think I was also looking for just a story on that disaster in general from a nonfiction standpoint, because I've read about Chernobyl, and so I kind of was intrigued by the Fukushima story as well, but this kind of touches on it in a more personal and ethereal way, but this was like $4.95, and I think I might have actually gotten this from Hamilton Book. But so I'm glad to have that. It should be a fairly quick read. Real quick, I talked about in one of my last videos. I showed a mystery novel by John Banville called Snow, and they also had this book, which sounds really good. And I guess he's an Irish writer, and I kind of want to explore more of the contemporary Irish writing as well. This is John Banville's The Untouchable. Oh, I know what drew me to this book. Hang on, I'll read it real quick to you. One of the most dazzling and adventurous writers now working in English takes on the enigma of the Cambridge spies in a novel of exquisite menace, biting social comedy, and vertiginous moral complexity. The narrator... What?
Goodness.
Vertiginous.
Yeah, don't get involved in Scrabble with that guy.
Don't. Banville will beat you. The narrator is the elderly Victor Maskell, formerly of British intelligence, for many years art expert to the Queen. Now he has been unmasked as a Russian agent and subjected to a disgrace that is almost a kind of death, but at whose instigation? As Maskell retraces his tortuous path from Cambridge to the airless upper regions of the establishment, we discover a figure of manifold doubleness. Irishman and Englishman, husband, father, and lover of men, betrayer and dupe. Beautifully written, filled with convincing fictional portraits of Maskell's co-conspirators, and vibrant with the mysteries of loyalty and identity, The Untouchable places John Banville in the select company of both Conrad and Le Carre, who recently just passed. So, yes, what drew me to this was the fact that I had recently read The Quiet Americans, which kind of introduced me into a whole world of espionage and the OSS and the creation of CIA. Well, not the creation of CIA. the OSS and then the spies and the beginnings of the Cold War, and then it talked about like Kim Philby figured in the book and how he kind of really fooled a lot of people in the American spy ring establishment. And so I've been kind of getting into the espionage lately, both history and in fiction. And in fact, I think I ordered a couple of books that were particularly about what happened with the British, with the Cambridge spy set. I'm really interested in that. So this work of, I guess it is historical fiction in a sense, kind of looking at that. And then I don't think these are not necessarily historical fiction, but they were available on bookoutlet.com, and I've been meaning to read Michel Welbeck. I guess that is how you pronounce his name. I picked up The Elementary Particles and The Map of the Territory. Yeah, he's kind of a controversial writer, and I wanted to see what the fuss was about. So these are two of his more well-known books, so I thought I'd pick those up as well. Okay, now moving along. I'm not sure why I decided to do this. Oh, I know. I was shopping on Book Outlet, and I went to their new arrivals in fiction, and these just showed up, and they were, I was like, I kind of miss reading a big, epic historical fiction where it just goes on forever. And I knew these books existed, and I never got around to checking them out. But the author is Edward Rutherfurd. And he's written a lot of books that are like location based, right? Okay. And they must have just had a big dump of, they like Book Outlet just got their hands on a ton of Rutherfurd titles, but they didn't have a lot of them. Like you had to order them immediately because they will tell you only 2 left in stock and 10 people have this in their cart right now. Yeah, that could be manipulated, to make you order. I don't know. I'm so cynical. Anyway, I looked at some of them, and I looked at 1 or 2. I think I started with this one. For obvious reasons, I'm a Russophile. I'm interested in all things Russia, and so this one came up. This is Ruska, the novel of Russia. And these are beautiful trade paperbacks. Like, these are not the mass market. These are like the nice, look at that, big and nice and floppy. This thing is massive. Look at that. Woo! But beautiful and pristine condition. I think I got it for like $5.95. Just remaindered, I'm not going to read every, because I have quite a few Rutherfurd titles, but I am set for historical fiction reading for a very long time to come. But, I'll just give you an example. It says here, Edward Rutherfurd turns his remarkable talents to a vast canvas, Russia. Spanning 1,800 years of its history, people, politics, and culture, Rutherfurd's grand saga is as multifaceted as Russia itself. Harsh yet exotic, proud yet fearful of enemies, steeped in ancient superstitions, but always seeking to make its mark on the emerging world. In Ruska, Rutherfurd transforms the epic history of a great civilization into a human story of flesh and blood. Boldness in action, chronicling the lives of 4 families who are divided by ethnicity but united in shaping the destiny of their land. So I guess in a way it's, I still need to read War and Peace because I think that's the ultimate Russian dynasty, novel. But it sounds like I could really lose myself in this. So I picked up Ruska, right? And then and then it showed like another Edward Rutherfurd book. And I was like, okay, so what's this one? This one is Sarum, the novel of England. Okay, so this is like ancient England. We're talking like, look, we got these monoliths here. What is this, like a again, these books are each one massive, but I got them for like $6 a piece. I am not joking. Oh yeah, this one's like 900 pages. Ruska is probably 1,000. Yep, almost 1,000. So Sarum looks at oh, maybe not. I thought this was more like an ancient. So Sarum is in Sarum, Rutherfurd has created a masterpiece of breathtaking scope, a brilliantly conceived epic novel that traces the entire turbulent course of English history. Okay, yeah, yes, he does that. Okay, again, it's another book which looks at 5 families now. The Wilsons, Masons, the family of Porteous, the Shockleys, and the Godfreys, who reflect the changing character of Britain. Okay, so this, yes, it does cover all of English history, but what confused me about that was that then I looked up, I searched by his name and all of the books came up. And he wrote a big epic on London, the novel. Look at this. Yet another. So this is all just about, I guess, how London came to be, but it's another sweeping novel. Everything's sweeping, you know. So it covers about 2,000 years. Yeah, half a dozen families from the age of Julius Caesar to the 20th century. We'll see. We'll see how these go. If you guys have read any of Edward Rutherford's books, let me know which ones you like best. So again, I went on a kick. And then I was like, well, what about America, folks? Don't worry, we got that covered. Edward Rutherford's New York, the novel. So that covers New York. Not as big as the others. Still pretty hefty, but yeah, still about 900 pages. But again, just beautiful trade paperback versions. Ballantine books. And they were all completely marked down in just in beautiful shape. So what we're covering, like the New York, the early American, all the way up to the let's see. Oh, this takes it all the way up to the attack on the World Trade Center. Holy crap! So he covers a lot of territory. So then I just was like, you know what the hell? We're gonna go all out. And they had Paris. Edward Rutherford's Paris, the novel. So again, this one is interesting. The novel follows nobles who claim descent from the hero of the celebrated poem, The Song of Roland. Also, a humble family that embodies the ideals of the French Revolution. A pair of brothers from the slums behind Montmartre, one of whom works on the Eiffel Tower, as the other joins the underworld near the Moulin Rouge. Yeah, so Louis V, the rise in the age of Napoleon. So, again, I've got really, really cool localized, reading, taking on big. If you want sweeping history, this is it. Oh, okay. So this is what this was. Okay. So remember I mentioned Sarum, right? Well, then I saw this one, and I'm like, isn't this like the same book? But this is called The Forest. So it's Edward Rutherford's The Forest. It says here it's a companion novel to the critically acclaimed Sarum. So The Forest is the companion volume to Sarum, and it is set in the surrounding area of that novel. From the time of the Norman conquest to the present day, the New Forest, that's capitalized, the New Forest, along England's southern coast has remained an almost mythical place. It is here that Saxon and Norman kings rode forth with their hunting parties, and where William the Conqueror's son Rufus was mysteriously killed. The mighty oaks of the forest were used to build the ships for Admiral Nelson's navy, and the fishermen who lived in Christchurch and Lymington helped Sir Francis Drake fight off the Spanish Armada. The New Forest is the perfect backdrop for the families who people this epic story. It goes into, the feuds, the love, the loyalties, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so so apparently these two go together. You got The Forest and Sarum. Okay, so So I thought that was the end of that. And then a week went by, and I think I looked into it again, and then I saw these two books, and I was like, I remember talking to someone. I don't remember where. Somewhere in the comments field. And we had talked about, maybe it was in the comments, or maybe it was on Twitter or Facebook. I don't know, but we're thinking of doing, if we came across these books, to do a read-along. So Edward Rutherfurd also did something called the Dublin Saga. And of course, I had to have that. And I think this is the first one in the, this is, so I picked up The Princes of Ireland by Edward Rutherfurd. And this is the first, I think, and this is the second. Yeah. Rutherford explores our shared Celtic roots in a magnificent epic of Ireland spanning 11 centuries. While vividly conveying the passions and struggles that shape particularly the character of Dublin, Rutherfurd portrays the major events in Irish history: the tribal culture of pagan Ireland, the mission of St. Patrick, the coming of the Vikings, the making of treasures like the Book of Kells, and the trickery of Henry II, which gave England its first foothold in medieval Ireland. Bastard. Through the interlocking stories of a memorable cast of characters, druids and chieftains, monks and smugglers, noble women and farm wives, laborers and orphans, rebels and cowards, Rutherfurd captures the essence of a place and its people in a thrilling story steeped in the tragedy and glory that are Ireland. Okay, so I've got The Princes of Ireland. And I think this one continues it, and this is called The Rebels of Ireland.
Listen, there has to be a cutoff point. Again, when it's like when it gets down to like, the coupon cutters of Ireland, you just the bookers of Ireland.
No, but this sounds good. Let me read the back.
Oh boy.
Cromwell, the Famine, W.B. Yeats, and the Women of the Easter Rising. Right. Rutherfurd brings Irish history to life through the tales of families whose fates rise and fall in each generation.
But wait, there's more.
Listen. Look, I picked it up. Okay, so it's part of the Dublin Saga. We've got the Rebels of Ireland. So that rounds out the Rutherfurd historical fiction book haul portion.
Irish people who can't get their laundry sorted by Rutherfurd.
Oh, Martine's having a good time. Okay, so yeah, guys, I think I have a lot of good historical fiction here. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you've heard anything about them. Again, I picked them up for so super cheap, and then I had a coupon, so it was just ridiculous. So anyway, we'll find space for that in the new home. Right now, they're probably going to go back into the box and be in storage until I can get everything, sorted in a new situation, in a new home with hopefully more space. Anyway, let me know what you think of any of these books. It's nice to be with you guys again after a little bit of a hiatus. It was nice to take some time off just to read and rest and all that good stuff. But I love talking to you guys. I love interacting. I love hearing your thoughts on all things books and history and literature, everything, really. Yeah, there's nothing we won't talk about here, right? Unfortunately. All right. Well, for that, I guess that kind of concludes this broadcast for this evening. I won't be making any more videos tonight. It's time for dinner. So I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great night. Stay safe, and yeah, see you next time.
Peace out.